Alright, so we won. We're finally getting the Snyder Cut.
And there was much rejoicing.
But the first question to ask is, what even is the Snyder Cut? I think a lot of people have this theory that Zack Snyder basically has a finished movie that's just waiting to get released and they've been holding on to it for no reason. But the reality is definitely much closer to there is a bunch of pieces and most of it's probably made and now it's gonna have to get finished, which they've made a $30 million budget for to do exactly that.
I'm chilling. It's just so funny that I'm just hanging here.
So we're hearing about potential release dates in 2021. This means that there's roughly a movie that needs to get made still. That's important to think about, because in essence what we're getting at now is that we don't believe that the movie as being made was the best version that could have been made, and that someone basically has to come and remake it to make it a lot better. That person being Zack Snyder. And I know not everyone agrees with the sentiment, but I don't think Zack Snyder is saving anyone from anything.
Hey guys, it's me, Zack Snyder, director of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and we're gonna talk about Suicide Squad.
I think we all have rose-tinted glasses because we still remember 300, which, yeah, is awesome. But afterward, we get things like Watchmen and Sucker Punch and Man of Steel.
Excuse me.
Do we think that the guy who signed off on Batman vs Superman is somehow gonna take this movie that's pretty much a 1 into a 9? It's probably gonna be like a 3, maybe a 4 if we're really lucky. And how is he gonna do it anyway? Because in a lot of the articles I've been reading, I haven't seen a whole lot about actual genuine reshoots or additional shots. So again, are we to believe that with the footage that exists already, we're gonna somehow cut a better movie out of it?
Alright.
You may have seen my video on Batman vs Superman, and in that one I talked about how that movie's so frustrating because it does feel like there's a good movie hiding in that movie that needs to kind of get released out, right? But the Justice League, I can't find almost anything salvageable from it.
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
I don't think you can't do a Justice League movie, but I think trying to rebuild it using the ashes that we have from what exists now, it would be like trying to make a better Suicide Squad using the first one.
We should order pizza. Big Cosmos.
A good movie is going to require good scenes, and I just don't know where good scenes are supposed to come from. If we'd been told that maybe Chris Nolan was going to come back and he was going to help us kickstart, the Justice League or something like that, it would make more sense. I could get that, doing something from scratch. But at this point, it's like we might as well have M. Night Shyamalan coming.
No, the critics are, I don't know what's going on with me and the critics of the United States, I gotta tell you.
Because you see, right now the villain is Joss Whedon, right? He's the one who came and ruined this movie. Which is funny because there was a time when Joss Whedon seemed like he could do no wrong. Now at this point, I will agree that his style is all over that movie, right? He had done something that worked really well for Marvel, and Marvel had found their voice. DC had learned the wrong lessons from things like Batman vs Superman, so they wanted to not go so dark and try to do this lighter, funnier Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing. So it would make a lot of sense for us to say, oh, Josh just came in and ruined the whole thing, and Zack's gonna come back and fix it, if we believed that it was gonna be a great movie left alone. But I absolutely don't believe that it was going to be a great movie by itself, and I don't think that Zack Snyder is the guy who's going to come and save it. At most, I would hire Zack Snyder to be a cinematographer for a film. Basically, if you want your movie to look like 300, you hire Zack Snyder to make your movie look like 300. But don't let him write anything, don't let him direct anything. And I genuinely worry about the future of the DCU when the fans get a chance to see the thing that they thought was being held from them that was going to be so much better. If it ends up being terrible, it may just get people to think that you can't do it, which is really funny coming off the back of having the really good Chris Nolan movies. I think that the future for DCU, what they should be thinking about is not trying to copy Marvel so much because they already jumped the gun so fast. If they had started it the slow way that they did and we had 5 movies before we finally had the Justice League, we maybe could have had something. We could have had a singular vision from someone, kind of like a Feige for the DCU. But I think at this point, things like Joker show that they should probably be focusing on one-off tales, not trying to interconnect everything, and then just move forward with just the best movies that they can without worrying about trying to make this giant sprawling thing where they're all interconnected. It doesn't seem to make a lot of the rounds of discussion, but I do think that things like Shazam were a good example of DCU finding a voice that can work, while coexisting with having something like Joker. And because we don't have a shared universe, those two things can be really good and very, very different. It's almost a value that the DCU could have over the MCU. To an extent, we've even kind of seen it with them. Winter Soldier has a very distinct tone in comparison to like Guardians of the Galaxy. But I do think there's a much larger gulf between Shazam and Joker. So I don't know, these are my thoughts, but ultimately I think everyone's gonna be very disappointed when they see this thing. Till next time. Okay, so 13 Reasons Why is working on their final season, so I guess I'll finally chip in. The show not only sucks, but is legitimately dangerous. And it's not every day that we get to see the actual metrics that prove that point.
Now, new published research says teen suicide spiked in the month after the show's release, a 28.9% increase among American kids ages 10 to 17.